Welcome, everybody, to another wonderful edition of MedNation Podcast, which medicine meets real talk. I'm Dr. David Faman, a board-certified podiatrist and foot and ankle extraordinaire based here in Nashville, Tennessee. This podcast is all about diving deep into the world of healthcare innovation and the stories that shape medicine today. Whether you're a fellow clinician, a healthcare enthusiast, or just curious about what really goes on behind the scenes in medicine, you're in the right place. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce a true legend in the world of podiatry, practice management, and medical leadership, Dr. Peter Wishnie. Over the course of 3 decades, Dr. Wishnie didn't just build a successful podiatry practice, he transformed it into a multi-million-dollar powerhouse, all while developing a reputation as a leader, mentor, and vision in our field. He's the author of the Podiatry Practice Business Solution, which I've read multiple times, a sought-after business coach, and the mastermind behind the renowned 3 Pyramids of Success framework, which has inspired practitioners around the country. Now, after selling his own thriving practice, he dedicates his time to empowering doctors and teams to create lasting change, achieve financial freedom, and most importantly, fall in love with their profession again. So without further ado, please welcome to the show, Dr. Peter Wishnie.
Thank you, David. Thanks for having me. And I think I'm a legend in my own mind, but appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, please. Not only are you a legend, I mean, I think that's a first step to success, which we'll talk about here, but you're a legend in the profession. And indeed, you made a bold decision early in your career to purchase a practice instead of working for someone else. What motivated that choice, and what were the initial challenges you faced?
Sure. Great question. I had a nice offer to work for somebody in Rhode Island. And my ex-wife, even though we're divorced, has done a lot of great things for me, especially early in my career. And one thing she said to me that I would be better off working for myself, knowing that I really don't like to be, I like to be in charge. I like to take care of what I want to take care of. And I don't like people telling me what to do. So she said, hey, let's go try to open up a practice. Maybe we'll buy an existing practice. And that's what we did. I'm from New York City, moved to Long Island, but at the time, the state laws of New York didn't allow me to work on ankles or do ankle surgery. So we looked at New Jersey and found a practice there. And there were, a lot of challenges. I had no clue how to run a business. Sure. I mean, it's a practice that was existing, but the previous doctor was discharging patients before I got there because he was sued multiple times, was afraid that I had this young guy coming in and knows, and is going to find things that he did wrong, and patients will start suing him. And so he was, not comfortable being around. He did a lot of MIS back then. But MIS in 1989 was totally different than today. You just make a little cut, let the osteotomy float and pray, right? And so he was sued multiple times. So my patient load was not as great as I thought it would be. I was losing about $8,000 a month. I had no clue, like I said, how to keep patients, how to keep staff, and had this fax that came through one day that said how to run your medical practice, 2-day seminar, $99. And from that moment on, I hired a coach for the year. And in 1 year, I made more money than the previous doctor did in 17 years of his practice.
Wow.
And the lesson I learned from that is you really, you can learn on the way. It's very costly, takes longer. But if you know people who know how to do things, why don't you speak with them, get into a mastermind, or hire people who know what they're doing? So I learned that from early on. That helped me a lot.
Yeah, which is a perfect segue, into the next question, building your thriving practice. So, and that's excellent advice, because over 30 years, you transformed your practice into a multi-million-dollar business. And again, you kind of touched on it. What key strategies contribute to this sustained success?
Oh, one simple thing. That's leadership. And if you, Dave, if you speak to our colleagues or anybody in the healthcare profession or any small business owner, the biggest problem is finding and keeping. That's the key one, keeping really good employees,
100%.
right?
Oh,
and
yeah, 100%.
But the biggest problem is that we're working in the business while we're still trying to work on the business.
Yeah.
But staff doesn't see that. Staff sees us as the boss. So even though you're treating the patient, you come out of that treatment room, they have questions, they don't know what to do, but you're like little frazzled maybe from what if an experience you just had with the patient. You have a lot of things to like a lot of orders to go through, prescriptions. Your mind is going like crazy. And then you have a staff member come to you and ask you for something or ask you for something that you think they should know the answer to.
Mhm.
And you get frazzled and in a nutshell, you get curtain short with your answer.
Right.
And then the staff member takes that personally
Mhm.
and you start losing people.
Right.
Um, so you need to know when to slow down, how to slow down. And when I learned that the key was leadership and learn how to keep staff, I read book after book on leadership, mainly John Maxwell kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that was the change that I had to start thinking like them and how they see me, not like, hey, I really care about you, but don't you see what I'm doing here? Don't you,
Right.
right. So that is the key. When you learn and keep great staff and you grow it and everybody gets cross trained or you have enough team, then you'll have more time. You'll be able to do what you want to do, work 3 days a week, 2 days a week, 4 days a week, whatever you want. And, having just your team being accountable to you and when they're accountable to you and you make sure you keep them accountable, that's really all you have to do. And then you'll have a great, great thriving business. And that was the key. That's the key that's a great book. 10X is easier than 2X, not 10X by Grant Cardone. And that's a good book, but
Right.
10X is easier than 2X. That's Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan.
Okay.
Great book. And I highly recommend that.
You were the leader of this great group. You built a thriving practice. And I mean, it was recent that you sold it, right?
Right. It sold it in be 3 years in June.
Right. Because I was going to say, I've known you for a number of years, or we followed each other for the number of years through my social media journey and trying to become one of the big guys here in the
Oh,
field.
you're doing
And
a
so,
great job, David.
well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, I remember I remember with your practice and with Brad included, right? You had sold it off. And I remember he kind of divulted off and did his thing. And so transitioning to coaching, after selling your practice, you shifted focus to coaching and mentoring. What inspired this transition and how has your approach to leadership evolved?
Cool. So I've been coaching really for now 14 years, now doing it full time
Right.
for the last year and a half. But so how it started with meeting someone named Rem Jackson. I was at his 18 years ago at his first meeting, the top practices meeting. It
Mhm.
was a small meeting at the time. I walked up to him and I said, one day we're going to work together. And he was all about marketing at the time. And I said, well, marketing's great, but without practice management, you can't keep the patients that you're marketing to.
Mhm.
And my analogy is like, you're inviting a lot of people over to your house for a party, but you didn't clean the house. You forgot to order the food or you ordered bad food. So people came at the first time for your first party, but then everything was bad. So they never came back for your second party. And as his business grew, he said, yeah, this is a great idea. And since it's podiatry and I've been doing it for such a long time and grew a business that I didn't have to work full time, I saw patients 3 days a week. I just had the time to help others. Someone helped me back in 1989 and I have all this information and knowledge. Doctors don't need to suffer. There's no need. There's no need to stay up late doing your charting. And my practice evolved from not having a computer to having completely in the year 2000, completely paperless to, you know, all different EHRs and everything. So I stayed up with all the technology but with technology, things get confusing. So I put in systems in place. I was allowed to like coach people and I love doing it. It's actually my biggest joy is sitting down with another doctor, a group of doctors and brainstorming. I don't have all the answers, but when you put a group of people together, we come up with some great ideas to make your office more efficient and more profitable.
Right. So a perfect segue yet again to the three pyramids of success. So can you explain your concept of the three pyramids of success and how they apply to running a successful medical
Sure.
practice?
And the only reason I call it pyramids is because everybody uses the word pillars.
Correct. Yeah.
So I
Sure.
use a different word. But a pyramid, each pyramid has a subset, just like if you went from the top, like, a typical triangle. But the first one is really important, is systems and KPIs. And I hear a lot of doctors talking about, I'm going to hire another doctor. I'm going to hire more staff. That's fantastic. But when you hire a team without systems and KPIs, key performance indicators, metrics, you're just creating more chaos.
Correct.
But your systems is like your cookbook, how you want things to be. They are flexible. They are not, stagnant as things change. And that could be monthly, quarterly, yearly. You have to update this system manual. And then your KPIs. This is so big, David. There are people who do their metrics, but not consistently. They don't understand how powerful this is. We go as doctors, and I just want to tell all the podiatrists out there, we're no different than any other doctor, because I coach all healthcare professionals now, and we're all the same. We all have the same problems. If you think your orthopedist got the answers and know what they're doing, they have no clue what they're doing, just like we are, on the average, of course. But when you want to go somewhere and you're at, point A and you want to get to point B, how do you know you're even making strides to get to point B? And that is knowing your numbers and key numbers. Otherwise, most of us are going, well, I have money in the bank and I'm paying my bills, so it's a good week. But that's not how you run a business. That's not how a CEO thinks. Where are we now? How can we make next week even better? If it's not a good week, how do we fix the problems? And here's the key. It's the next pyramid, leadership, like we talked about. You don't have to fix all the problems. Having a weekly team meeting and looking at the metrics, because every staff member has a KPI. Some of them have more than one. And having them interpret those KPIs, put a weekly action plan together. And I call it WAP, but if you know Cardi B, it's probably not the right term.
Yeah. That would actually make it even funnier, because these young generations know that particular
Right.
acronym for WAP. But
So I throw that out because it surprises people and gets them, like, they don't think I know what I'm talking about, but I do. And but having a weekly action plan based and that they put together, not you, your staff puts together, each individual person puts together, saying, this is what I'm going to be working on this week. Now they buy into it. Why do they buy into that weekly action plan? And that's because they came up with the idea, not you telling someone what to do, but they thought about it. So they're going to put it into play, and most likely it will get done. And they'll focus on the 1, 2, or 3 things they need to do for that week. So KPI, systems, leadership, like we mentioned, and the big one, nothing happens with positive mindset. There'll be days where you didn't have a good day, a good week, both, mentally, financially, and you just don't want to go to work, but you have to do things like you work out your body every day. You have to work out your mind for a few minutes every single day. And knowing that this is something you really want and you know what you're doing. And because sometimes we have like imposter syndrome, we have FOMO, we have all those terms, fear of missing out, and we should go to this meeting and that meeting, we should buy this shiny object and that shiny object. But having tremendous focus on the one thing that you need to do and being positive about it and staying away from negativity is huge. So those are the 3 basically pyramids.
And I absolutely love that. Let's shift gears a little bit to patient experience. You've mentioned the importance of wowing patients. What strategies and practices can you employ to enhance patient satisfaction and loyalty?
It starts off with truly caring about your patient, no matter how you're getting reimbursed or what kind of practice you have. It's really about putting patients first. And I will take that one step further, and that is keep putting your staff first, because if you can treat your staff the way you treat your patients, they'll take care of the patients for you. For the moment they call that office and how that front desk answers that phone, always with a smile, that's the key. I stress that at every single morning huddle. let's just, no matter what's going on with our lives outside of this office, inside this office is a safe zone. We love each other. We take care of each other, and just smile. If I'm not smiling, please tell me I'm not smiling, because sometimes when I'm thinking too much, I'm like, it looks like I'm depressed, but I'm just thinking. And so just make sure I'm smiling. Smiling shows confidence. It's these little things. People think that we have to be like serving warm, fresh cookies on a Tiffany platter, which I think is a great idea. If you have a direct care practice, it's great. If you do what others don't do, and that is, one is calling all your new patients the next day. I've been doing that since I was 29 years old. Calling when they go home, they have dinner, they say, I can't believe this is what happened. Dr. Wishnie just called me just to see if I had any additional questions or how everything was. And if little things, like I had patients who were very nervous. They were going for a breast biopsy the next day, and I made a note of it, called them within several days after the biopsy just to see what the results were and if they were okay. Nothing to do with their feet, just caring about them, making sure you're staying on time. So again, doing things what other people don't do consistently. You consistently stay on time. Wow. That's now the expectations of their practice. And a little warning on this. I've had patients who've been with me for like 15 plus years. One day I was like late and behind schedule with this patient, and she got upset. I said to her, I'm like, you've been with me for 15 years. And like one time, and I realized I set a new precedent. That's why they come to me.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you keep on, if that doesn't happen consistently, they'll still go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right. So it's very funny, but just going out of the way for them. I had a medical assistant change a patient's flat tire. That was a flat tire in the parking lot. And I didn't know his name. He just went out there and did it without asking me, and asked the staff, where is he? And he's changing this lady's tire. I said, okay, this is great. And
Yeah.
I gave him like a gift card, and a nice gift card to buy whatever he wants to buy, because that's what you want from your team. Just go out of their way for the patients.
You're absolutely correct. It's here to get their foot taken care of and the right answers. But at the end of the day, like you said, you set a precedence coming in the office, and it's the little things that they want to see, and that's what sets us apart as well. You and I have very similar mindsets, and a lot of the things you're talking about, I've instilled in my day-to-day practice. Interestingly, and I mean, whether it's because I read your book all the time, right? And I've kind of got your mindset now. But it's just funny because I've noticed it is the little things. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I can come in here and fix their ingrown toenail. I could fix their callus with their toenail. They're happy, right?
Right.
It's going the step above, I think, like you said, that sets us apart from the Joe Schmo down the street, or the dozen that I have here in Nashville down the street.
Right. Hey, David, before you ask the next question, this is important for your audience out there. Stop saying no to your patients.
Yeah.
As long as, here's my philosophy, as long as it's legal and ethical, right? Do whatever you can. I tell my staff this, do whatever you can to make that patient happy. If they're returning a night splint, a cam boot, it's worn, and you just don't want to be like, they're trying to pull one over on me kind of thing. Who cares? It costs you $29, $30, and you're going to have a fight with your patient. And then who gets in the fight? It's your staff member who now feels awkward, and the patient who's not going to come back. Forget about they write a bad review. It's just not worth the headache or the aggravation or the high blood pressure. Just give them the $30 and call it a day.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that. I used to be the guy that was just like, no, like, we can't not take back this power step. It's disgusting. But like you said, what I've learned over the years is it's not even worth it. Like you said, I mean, what's a $30 power step or $22 power step versus, like I said, that patient comes back, they're happy. Again, the office visit, another, shot or what have you. Like you said, it's just not worth it.
Correct.
Let me ask you a question. In going back to the morning huddles, it's something that I used to do frequent, and I've kind of floated wayside. Is that something you recommend once a week to do? Or are you doing it every day? Or did you notice you were doing it every day, like a morning huddle? Or like I said, I kind of want to reinstill that and reinstill the cohesiveness of the group. Is that something you were doing on Fridays, every day, Mondays? Tell me about that.
Okay. The morning huddle is different than like your weekly meeting. So We've
Got it.
had a weekly meeting every Monday. It's carved out in our schedule automatically. Let's say from 1 to 2, and we did 90 minutes as the staff got bigger. For offices that have multiple locations, you could thank Zoom for this. You could just get one office on Zoom.
Mhm,
And I highly recommend everybody have their own computer or iPad and be on Zoom separately. Because
mhm,
then if you have a group Zoom on one computer, you don't know who's paying attention. So that's your weekly meeting. A morning huddle is also known as a muster. It's a army term, and it's a huddle for your team to get together 15 minutes before the start of the day. We go over the schedule. So my front desk person will read the schedule. This is Mrs. Smith. She's coming in for her first post-op appointment. All right. So the MAs are there. The financial team is there if you have in-house financial billing, and all the doctors are there. And the MAs now know that when the patient comes in, I would say this patient had this procedure. So I need 3 sets of x-rays. And so they know if it's a soft tissue procedure or an osseous procedure. They bring the patient in, they get the x-ray, they take off the bandage, everything's all set. All the new healthy bandages are on the counter, ready for them to put back on. I just go in, answer any questions. I say, hey, Mary, this looks fantastic. This is what your new instructions are. I do need to see you in a week, 2 weeks, whatever.
mhm,
MA puts the bandage back on. I'm in there 3 minutes.
mhm.
Maybe I've had some questions, 5 minutes. So that's why that's important. And no matter, sometimes it's just this patient's here for routine foot care. Fantastic. But I had a patient for ages, may he rest in peace, a priest, but he never dressed like a priest and he came in regular street clothes. So if I had a new staff member, I'd say, this is Father Lawler.
Mhm,
And they would say, I say, you won't know that he's a father, but if you don't say, address him father, or actually then he became Monsignor,
mhm.
address him as Monsignor, he gets offended. I'm like, I really wanted to say, well, no one knows you're a priest because you don't dress like okay. But I
Right.
didn't have out of respect. But I said, he always likes a pencil to put his appointment in his own appointment book. So please come in with a pencil. And this is another route of service. So the patient's in the treatment chair. He's called Monsignor. And we give him a pencil to write his appointment in the book. But things like that, little odds and ends for about specific patient. Every patient we go over, we need this, we need that. Everything now is ready for you to have an efficient day. There have been days that we skipped it. People came in late and said, forget, let's just get our day going. And it's not a good day.
Yeah.
And then I learned if someone shows up late, you have to go and review the schedule. But, they have to come in on time. And our billing people are there because occasionally our biller would say, oh, that's Josephine. She owes us $120. Please let me see her before she goes into the treatment room. So we don't keep on padding the bill
Right, and do you recommend that every new practitioner or every clinical office does that, have a morning meeting every day?
every day. So every person every day. Yeah, like we had 2 offices, and the second office, I wasn't there after a while, but my practice administrator would go there, or the front desk was trained to do it. Okay. And they did it. Okay. Because they just got in the habit.
No, I think it's great, like you said, I feel like it brings cohesiveness together and sitting down through every patient. I mean, I feel like you can get discombobulated, right? Because when
Right.
you're seeing 30, 40, 50, 60 patients, unfortunately, a day, you know, it's chaos, and it can become chaos unless, like you said, you sit down and, they should, collectively from the front desk all the way to the MA staff, all the way to the billing should be able to have that, at least the knowledge and the confidence in you and the confidence in everybody that it trickles down the line to know what to do. And I like that idea for that you bring in. And that's something that I started. And I feel like, if I had to be critical, it's something I stopped doing. But like you said, we can get a little guilty of, hey, I got to go round in the morning.
Right.
I got to go sign my patient for morning surgery. That's at 8:30, 9 a.m. But no, I could take the time at 7:30 with everybody to do that. And that's something that, thanks to you, I may instill again and tell Dr. Lanier as well to start, because I think it's so important.
Right. Cool. So at the end of the meeting, though, think of yourself as a coach.
Yeah.
Not as a doctor, biz owner, whatever. You just give them a positive motivation for the day.
Yeah.
Let's make it a great day. Let's remember to smile. Like, I tell jokes in between the patients, right? They mention then patients' names or whatever. And then you hear this, oh, it's her, and you
Yeah.
reading out the names, and this is a patient from hell.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way inside, and they know I feel the same way, but I do say, this patient just needs a little extra love. So let's
Right.
give her a little extra love,
And we all guilty of having those, trust me.
right,
And I know you know that. Like I said, there's patients that are extremely particular and it's fine, right?
right,
Let's talk about burnout. So it's a very real thing. I just read an article about how suicide in young physicians is real, right? And it's on the rise. And
right.
and I think burnout's a big part of it, right? And so burnout is prevalent among us healthcare providers. What advice do you have for practitioners to maintain passion and prevent burnout?
Great question. It usually happens between the ages of 42 and 45. My own little research. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's because at that age, you have a young family. You've been in practice maybe already for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
You worked your butt off in college to get to medical school, worked your ass off in medical school to get a good residency. You get treated like crap in your residency. And then you finally think, hey, I made it. And you hate to tell everyone you never make it. Whenever you think that you made it,
Yeah.
you just sit back on your laurels and then the things fall apart. And then we think around that, the middle of our 40s, we should already be where where we want to be. We should have that beautiful home with 2 cars and a great family and have money away and go on great vacations. And you might have all that, but at the same time, maybe you're working harder and longer. Maybe the practice is not as profitable, and you just really get tired because you're working hard. I'll tell you how you fix that. It is a real thing, and like I said, it happens to all of us. But I've seen people all of a sudden say that, you know what, it's greener on the other side. Medicine's not the way it used to be. And I've seen people, you know, buy like mini circuses, open up laundromats, sports clips, haircut places, thinking, they'll make more money doing that. So the first rule of thumb is never take your eyes off the prize, and which I said in my book in the last chapter. And that's because you have a gift of doing something that most people can't do, and that is healing people through all means. But once we get tired and burnt out, our creative mind basically gets really shut off, and we just focus on the negative, not the positive. But if you think about just as podiatrists, how my practice evolved, how medicine's evolving in a good way, regenerative medicine, direct care, MIS, doing things in the office, you can throw anything at us, such as copays, high deductibles, in network, out of network. Yeah, it's a problem, but we're all figuring it out and figuring out how to get around it. And we provide, maybe we have services like lasers and shockwave that patients pay. They don't need as much surgery, helps them. We get them better. They're willing to pay cash because they don't have to be laid up because of surgery. Not everybody wants that or could afford that, yes, but it's a way to do a hybrid where you can treat a good amount of people and get them better and still make money. So the answer to all this is that once you take your eyes off the whole picture and not sitting down and thinking about having a rainmaker day, a day where you're working on the practice, where you're going, you know what do I not like about what I'm doing in my practice? Like, I don't like staying up to 8:00 at night doing charts. Okay. Ask yourself, and I learned this from Tony Robbins, when you don't like something and you have a problem and need a solution, ask yourself a better question. How can I get my charts done by the end of the day, work day, without me doing it and without being really expensive? So we have AI now. We have virtual scribes. I've hired a couple physician assistant students from the local university who came in like in the afternoon and helped me scribe. and they're amazing. So there are many, many ways to do this. But when you're exhausted and tired and just see patient after patient after patient, you cannot become creative. You cannot come up with solutions to problems because that mind of yours, that creative mind, does not work usually when you're in the treatment room. It works when you just relax with a cup of coffee and say, okay, let's figure out solutions to this. Let's ask my team about this. Let's ask a few other my colleagues about this and get a whole bunch of answers and then come up with quick solutions. And that is another issue that we have as young entrepreneurs. We don't make decisions quick enough.
Right.
We like sit on it and it festers in our brain forever. And it just bothers us constantly. So the idea is that when you have a problem, get the information quickly, come up with the solution quickly, and make a final decision quickly. I'm not saying making a bad decision without facts. Get all the facts, get other
Right.
people's opinions. But at the end of the day, what do you want? How's it going to help your practice? And hire the person. Yes, it's costing you money to hire another person. It's costing you more money when you don't hire the person. It costs you more money when you don't buy that piece of technology that could be making you money.
Right.
There's the opportunity costs that you're not taking into account when you're trying to figure out your SWOT analysis, strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. So which is another thing to do, like every quarter, have a SWOT analysis that you do on your practice.
Yeah. Well, wonderfully said. So, with that said, as we gear towards the end of this podcast here, let's talk about the future of podiatry and practice management. Looking ahead, what trends do you foresee in podiatry and healthcare practice management? How should practitioners prepare for these changes?
Oh, great question. So my practice was bought out by private equity.
Mhm.
I'm going to tell you this, and I've always thought this: being bought out by hospitals, private equity, that's going to be, I don't know, that's going to be gone in the next, maybe for podiatry, I'm talking about 5 to 10 years.
Mhm.
And the reason being is because who dictates how we do things in this country? And that's still the consumer. Patients still want proper care. They want to make sure that you're not feeling rushed, that you're in the treatment room and you're paying attention to them. And the offices that can really be efficient and spend quality time with the patient will always win, because that patient's going to feel great, get better results, and that patient will tell 10 more people, because now you're setting yourself apart from the other doctors. And where are we going? Technology is amazing. I just have, and by the way, David, I put together an AI chart for medical practitioners. So they just email me, drwishnie@gmail.com. I will then send this AI chart, which will consist of, let's say, you need AI for scheduling. These are the AIs you should look at. Different aspects of the office. Which AIs should you use? How much does it cost? And which EHRs will work with that AI? So if you want that, just email me on that. But AI is amazing. It's going to save you a lot of time if you use it properly. I would study that almost every day and play with it. It's going to be huge. More cash-based practices. I don't care if you're in Omaha, Nebraska, or Central Park West, where Dr. Bradley and I opened up the practice where he's now in New York City.
Mhm.
People buy stuff. You know this. People buy stuff that they shouldn't be buying. Okay, throughout the year, they're spending money on crap. Right?
Yeah.
They are educated, and that you can get them better than the doctor down the street faster. Okay, then not everyone, but there's a good majority of people that still pay for quality service, and a doctor that truly, old school doctor who truly cares and takes the time, time with the patient, and even after hours. And that's my big recommendation. Myself and my fiance, we had some procedures this year and went to doctors that are basically out of network in New York City. The attention that you get is incredible, especially even after hours, where they will call you back, right? Call back your patients, or you have them use the patient portal so you know what their questions are, and then call them back. And if you're afraid to get into direct care 100%, we always had a hybrid model going on, which allows us to take care of all the people we want to see.
Yeah, man, that's perfect, and such a wealth of information. I love that, and like I said, I'm a big tech guy. I think AI is the future, and I think you're absolutely right. And I think our listeners, and we have a wealth of listeners that are both health enthusiasts as well as clinicians in all fields of medicine. I think they need to email you about that AI because I think it is the future. So, what are the top 3 action steps every podiatrist and clinician should take this week to move their practice forward?
If you don't know your numbers, know your numbers. These 4 key numbers, there's a lot more, but 4 key numbers. And this is done weekly. And then you can also compare monthly. Total charges, total collections, total patient visits, total new patients. Figure out your per visit revenue. And that's over the last 6 months, take the total number of patients you've seen and the total amount of money you collected and figure out your per patient visit revenue. And that's important because if you want to make X number of dollars and right now you're seeing X number of patients, then you'll know what your PVR should be. And you know how many patients you might need to see as well in order to get the revenue that you need. And the percentage of kept appointments. So I have 6 numbers there. I'm making sure your patients keep their appointments. So know your KPIs. And then from there, figure out systems that will increase your KPIs, have every system in writing. And if you don't have it in writing, then what you do is you assign tasks to each staff member to say, okay, for this week or the next 2 weeks, when you are setting up a tray for a nail procedure, I want you to write down the whole process of exactly how you're doing it. Then we're going to take this process and give it to another medical assistant and have her duplicate it in the sense she's just going to read the cookbook, the formula that the first MA put together, just follow step by step and see if we left something out. It's not a test. It's just to make sure that this cookbook, this operating system manual, SOPs are actually perfect. So anybody that you hire can just look at it and be trained on it. And then how can they do this while they're working? You ask them, can you get it done within a month or 2? And I'll give you 2 extra days off, PTO days off for the year with pay. So you don't have to do everything. You get your team to be involved. So systems and KPIs, that's the first thing. And just learn about being a better leader and train your team to be better leaders.
Well, wonderfully said. So, I just want to tell everybody, if you love today's episode, tag us and Dr. Wishnie on Instagram with your biggest takeaway. If you enjoyed the conversation, make sure to subscribe so you never miss out on the latest in medicine and healthcare. Leave a review, share with a friend, and let's keep the discussion going. Follow Dr. Wishnie as well as myself on social media for more insights, and stay tuned for more expert interviews and deep dives in the world of medicine. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep pushing the boundaries of healthcare. Thank you again, Dr. Wishnie, for having you. We'd love to have you again and again.
My pleasure.
Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.